Well, hello, everybody. We're going to be here with you for a while. And our first guest, of course, is Dean Webb. And he's the executive director of Faith Farm Ministries. Actually, he's not really our first guest. He's probably going to be our third guest because we start at 5. But I will tell you something, that Dean Webb always gets me so enthused and so excited about what's happening at Faith Farm that I just keep my mouth shut and just let him talk. So I'm just going to ask you one question. It's hard for me to say that, of course, Dean. The one thing is you have something very exciting coming up, which I'm going to, by the way. So
yes,
why don't you tell everybody about it?
I got your RSVP. Thank you for joining us.
My joy.
So this Sunday morning at 10:30 to 12, we have our annual homecoming. It's always in the end of February, early March. This time it's February 22nd on Sunday morning. The reason it's significant is we have between 800 and 1,000 people. We pitch 2 large circus-sized tents corner to corner around our pavilion where we prepare the food, barbecue, and for after the service. And then we build a stage so that it faces right in the corner where the tents join. And we have an hour and a half of fun. And we have about 800 to 1,000 every year. We prepare over 1,000 meals, and we don't have anything left over. Maybe somebody comes for seconds. I don't know. But we have people come from all over. Like I remember year before last, we had a lady come from South America to see her. She was there for her sister's graduation, and she came. We had a guy drive down from New Hampshire. We had a guy fly in from Iowa. We have this year we've got a guy that's coming from California. We have people coming from all over the country and the world who have graduated from Faith Farm, and they're coming to celebrate their sobriety and their freedom from drugs and alcohol. And it's a real true celebration. Some of them bring their families, and they reconnect with people that they were in the program with years ago, and they basically celebrate freedom from drugs and alcohol.
So you're saying, though, that you have people who come and they probably don't know one another, but they come to be around other people who've done that. And then you have some fabulous speakers that I have been privileged to hear before. Yes,
we try and get somebody who either is involved in recovery. This year we have Dean Middleton. He was about an addict for about 20 years, and he went through recovery. And it didn't happen to be at Faith Farm, but nevertheless he got clean. And he's now president of, I'm going to forget the name of the, I'm going to forget what he's president of. But anyway, he's a company in Miami. It's the second largest check clearing organization. And he's a neat guy. He is actually funded. It's United Transactions with a Z, Transactions, Inc. Anyway, he has done a lot for people in recovery. Like, for example, he previously has done 2 concerts for Christian performers to come in, and rented the Playhouse in Boca here, and he actually chartered buses for our guys to come from Okeechobee, Fort Lauderdale, and Boynton Beach, as well as other people that had recovery programs, to pack the Playhouse with Phillips, Craig, and Dean were the recording people, and our guys really like that. He realizes that it's very, very important for people to know they can really have fun without being pumped up on drugs or alcohol. And that's his purpose.
I have to tell you, I'm hysterical, as you know, and I don't drink or smoke or anything, and never have done any of that. And I don't even understand why people do it. But you know what? Yeah. As you said, they do it. So, and I want them all to get where they can be. So yeah. You're right. They do think that that's what they have to have.
Well, once they do that, they think they just have the mindset that they've got to do that to have fun and be free and whatever. And you can really enjoy life without being drugged up or alcoholed up. You can enjoy life. You don't have to have that.
And the one thing we've talked about, Dean, so many times is, sure, people can have, like Bill has a glass of wine or 2, or people have a drink, and they don't act like that. So it's something more serious in their systems,
right?
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's a crutch. They're usually trying to put salve in a wound somewhere. They've been hurt dramatically in their life, or they've experienced tremendous loss of family or husband or wife, or a child, and it's so painful for them they self-medicate.
Or it could
to
be
try
a
and forget
chemical
that.
imbalance too, isn't it?
It
That
could be,
sometimes
yeah,
alcohol
I don't want to categorize. It could be anything as to why they do it. And a lot of people say that there's a gene that causes some people to take a drink and not be able to stop, because honestly, there are millions of people who have a drink at happy hour or two after work and don't go into the addictive process.
Well, I have to tell you something that I've had, and I didn't know why. I have a very, very close friend, and he's been famous in many things. He lives abroad, and he lives here. And we go to very fancy restaurants with his wife, and everyone is having wine, except, I don't, but, he always refuses. He says, no, thank you, and he has water with me. And he's very sophisticated, and I'm saying, why doesn't he have wine? I never thought about it, but Bill apparently was with him one day when I wasn't there, and I think Bill asked him. And he told him that he was in show business for a long time, and he drank like crazy all the time. And he said that I don't know what was there's usually something that happens, and he stopped cold turkey. He just said, I can't be like this anymore, and has never taken a drink since.
Wow.
Even though it isn't that he didn't go to Faith Farm, but it's the same kind of a thing, that something had to happen where he was able at least to control never having a drink again.
Yeah. Well, I don't tell a lot of people this, but years and years ago, and I mean years, 50 more, I used to smoke. And I was a stockbroker with Merrill Lynch. One day the market was crashing. The Dow dropped below 1,000. And this is back before electronic trading. We had ticker tapes, and the tape was 3.5 hours late. In other words, you'd see Xerox dropping, and I had a customer says, what is Xerox? And I'd tell him, he said, oh my God, sell out. So I throw a market order in to sell. And by the time I got the report back, it was $20 a share less than what it was on the tape, because the tape was late. The stock had already dropped. This was before electronic trading, before you had all that information. And I remember at that point, my customers were just so stressed out. I was stressed out. I couldn't tell what was going. You didn't know the accurate prices. All you could report was what was going by on the tape. And people weren't getting the same prices when they executed their orders. And I remember looking down. I lit up a cigarette, and I looked down, and I had 4 cigarettes burning in the ashtray, and I was lighting up a 5th one. And I took a look at that, and I said, this is insane. I don't know if I'm addicted to nicotine, but I'm addicted to lighting up. And I remember I took my cigarettes and threw them away, and I put salt. I said, this is ridiculous. And it was 2 months before my wife says, Dean, have you stopped smoking? I haven't seen you smoke. I said, yeah, a couple months ago. She said, my God, I've been praying for you to stop. Why didn't you tell me? And I said, well, I don't know. And I told her the thing. I said, I had no withdrawals. I wasn't addicted. I was addicted to just the procedures of reaching for them and all that stuff. So, I don't know why. And I think that's true of some people who drink. It's a social thing to do. So, I may not like it, but I'll do it. Or maybe they learn to like it. I don't know. They're all different mixes of people. But the sad thing is when, it's kind of like the thing, if you exercise abstinence, you'll never get pregnant. If you exercise abstinence in drugs or alcohol, you'll never get addicted. I mean, so, and then other people do, put their toe in the water in some of these things, and they're okay. But it's a really high-risk situation, I think, if you don't know that especially if you've had a father who's been an alcoholic and you start drinking, man, you probably have the wherewithal to say, oh, I'm not going to be like that and not do it, but you also have the tendency to do it.
Well, my ex-husband, I never talk about him very often, but I do remember he was definitely didn't smoke, he didn't drink, because his father did drink a lot, and then he took his mother to the bars, and he used to beat his mother. And I think that left such an impression on him that he would never do that.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't smoke or drink, but I remembered he was against that, and he didn't want to have it in the house even for sociability for someone. I don't think he ever even had taken a drink, because he saw something so bad from it. And so you're dealing with people like this all the time, and now I understand why that graduation is such a celebration.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you a story. My first wife that died of cancer, we were married 35 years. Her father was vice president of Winn-Dixie, and of course, he always. I couldn't get over this. I was never alcohol because my dad was a preacher. I was never around it. But when I would go to her house at Christmas, after they opened the gifts on Christmas morning, the morning ritual was to go out into the garage and start taking a crowbar and start opening all the wooden cases of alcohol that people sent him all over. And they were popping corks and pouring alcohol down the drain. I said, the house smelled putrid for about 24 hours. I never saw so much expensive booze poured down a drain. I was never around it. I mean, it was really, I know now I know because I'm in the business of recovery. I know that certain alcohols are very expensive and stuff, and others are just rot gut cheap. But this was really expensive stuff because he was the vice president of Webb. And we would, and the whole family would line up, cork by cork, just pouring bottle after bottle after bottle down the drain.
Hysterical.
And I said, I don't know how your kitchen pipes stand this. I said, I have never seen so much alcohol poured.
The ants, the drunk ants, and all the chameleons and all.
I mean, I said, I don't know how your pipes can take this much toxin. I mean, but anyway, that was a ritual, and I finally got used to it. We were there Christmas, and boy, after the gifts, we went out to the ritual. We started hauling in stuff and crowbarring.
Rather than giving them away to other people.
Oh, he wouldn't give them away to me because they had a relative, a family member who was just a horrible drunk, and he could not. They wouldn't even invite him to family things because it was so disruptive, and it messed it up for them and the kids and the grandkids and stuff. They just couldn't do it, so they just kind of isolated away from him. But they would, because of that, they said, we're not going to tempt anybody to become like our uncle, and so they would not give that away. They would just pour it down a drain. And he would ask them not to send them alcohol, but and so sometimes Frito-Lay we'd send a whole crate of Fritos. Well, you couldn't eat all the Fritos in the world, but they, at least that was better. We'd hand those out, and we would give those away, but not the alcohol.
That's a great story. We were getting some good stories in here today. This is story time. But the graduation, I have gone to a few of your graduations, and I just want to tell you that I think it was the last one where the son of who's that very famous rich man here who spoke last time?
Oh, Wayne Huizenga Jr.?
Yes.
Yeah.
He really touched my heart. And, I mean, he had everything and has everything. And yet he really got caught up in it, didn't he?
Yeah. Silver spoon in his mouth, very wealthy, and got caught up in the drug scene in Miami, and it was really bad. And we wanted him to come speak because we wanted to give it same reason we wanted Dean Middleton there to see somebody who's a millionaire, somebody who was addicted for years and years and years, and overcome their addiction and become successful. Because a lot of people that are very overt about they aggressive in the use of alcohol or drugs or whatever. They're type A personality. They're go-getters, and if you ever get them off drugs and get them back on business, they're going to be successful. They're going to be successful. So
this starts at 10 o'clock.
10:30 this Sunday morning, the 22nd.
And it is open to the public.
It is open to the public. And we have 2 huge circus tents, enough to handle over 1,000 people. And it's really a fun time. We have a girl, we have 3 people that will give a short 5-minute story of their life before the speaker gets up. And, of course, we have music. One of the people giving their testimonies is Roy Foster. Roy Foster was one of the nominees for Hero of the Year Award in 2009 because he left Faith Farm 30 years ago after graduation and went north about 2 miles up to Lake Worth. And he got a duplex, and he put some bunk beds in, and he started an outreach for the homeless to help veterans because he was a veteran and his heart was touched. So he kind of does what Faith Farm does except for veterans. And he eventually got to where he's got a 42-room hotel there on Lake Worth. And I just went about 8 weeks ago to a groundbreaking where he broke ground on the House of Valor. It's a 13-acre site off of Lake Worth. It's going to have 160 residences for veterans. And he's gonna be there, giving just a quick 5-minute story of his life testimony. Then we have a gal, can't remember if it's Vanessa or Valerie. She's going to be there. She's in Alyssa. She now is married. Well, let me back up. In her story in the book, You Turn to God,
Right, I have that
her
book.
story, she's the one, Alyssa's the one who was with a guy in a hotel or motel, and she got up and go to the restroom, came back, went to bed and touched him, and he felt cold, so she turned on the light, and he was dead, and they had both been shooting up heroin, and he overdosed. And she starts shaking her fist at heaven and screaming out to God, God, why did you let him die? I got him addicted to heroin. I should be the one to die. Well, she came through Faith Farm. She's totally turned around. She now has a husband, and they go to church, and she is doing addiction counseling. She's trying to become a certified counselor for addiction and helping others the way Faith Farm helped her. Then the third thing is a guy, Marty Angelo. Marty Angelo was back here way back when Pappy, our founder, Garland Easton, was still alive. And Garland kind of took to him. This guy managed rock groups, and he was a manager of entertainment groups. And but he ended up doing drugs, selling, going to prison. And he left when he graduated from Faith Farm. He stayed for a couple of years, and then he went to California, and he was minister to the stars. When Lindsay Lohan or somebody get arrested, he'd see it in the paper. He'd go right to the prison and talk to him or her about God and that they could change their life. And he's written 5 books. He's just
going to be speaking?
He's going to be one of the people.
Wait to hear him.
So what we do at our homecoming is such a celebration. I get cold chills thinking about it. For an hour and a half, it's just cram packed with wonderful, uplifting music and stories of people who have turned their life around and gone on to help others, and to give our students that are we charter buses for our 3 campuses and bring them in from Lauderdale and from Okeechobee, bring them down to Boynton Beach. And so that all of our students and our staff can hear these stories and a reinforcement of, yes, you too can change. Look, here's people that had a horrible lifestyle, and they were broken, and they came into Faith Farm and turned their life around. Now they're playing it forward for others. They're helping others the way we help them. And it's just an encouragement. It's just a fun time. It's just a really fun time.
Yeah, I know. I've been to a couple of them, and I feel that way. And even though, and I go there because I always like inspirational stories. That's who I just think no matter what it is, inspirational stories help you in your own life, whether you have what they're talking about or not. Don't you feel that?
Oh, yeah. Anybody who overcomes difficulties and hardships, I just love to hear their stories, especially, and it gives more impetus. The more successful they are at doing it, you realize there's such a gap from where they were to where they are now that the big gap just by itself is a huge story and turn around their life.
Well, I was thinking, though, a lot about when you just mentioned about the U-Turn to God, and this is a great book for people that actually Dean Webb wrote. It's called U-Turn to God, Wrong Ways Made Right, and it does feature a lot, about 50 people, and for them to have been so open about their life, is that typical of people who have had real problems and then they've turned around? Do they like to talk about this?
It depends on the person. Now, when people come into Faith Farm, we do get a release because we don't know. Somebody could we've had newspapers come out and take pictures of a church service, and of course, everybody. You have 300 people in there, and there's their image is available, so we never know when they're going to. So we just have a general release when they come in as a condition of coming in as a student, as a resident, that their physical image, any stories, testimonies, television. If we film and use them in a commercial, whatever, any image of them while they're at Faith Farm and their story, we have a release to use. Because sometimes we purposely do it like for the stories in the book. Now, in the book, I kind of treaded the line. I only put the first name, like Niles, Alyssa, Emily.
I think that's fair.
I just put their first name. Now, sometimes in these graduation speeches, they actually tell their last name too. So I did not edit these stories. I left them exactly the way they gave them at graduation. So these are 50 really true graduation stories. So I did not modify them at all. I might change the grammar or spelling, but I didn't change the meat of what they said. So that's really true. Everybody's different. Some people, when they leave, it's been such a transformation in their life that they're back helping others. So of course they willingly tell where they've come
I
from.
lost 50 pounds, right? And this is how you can lose 50 pounds, right?
Yeah. They want to replicate the change in their life in others, and so they willingly tell the story. We have other people that, for example, we had a guy who we were selling hot dogs and doing the refreshments up at Okeechobee at the ballpark, and one of the ministers, one of the guys who was there was a college professor, but he didn't tell anybody on what he was doing on leave of absence. Well, when one of the college students came and saw him there, and he just was embarrassed because his students did not know he had an addiction. And so, of course, in his case, he didn't go do any public stuff anymore because he was embarrassed. So everybody's different, on where they're at. Usually, it depends. It just depends on how high up they were and where they are in the program. Everybody's different. It's just like the addictions. Everybody's different.
It's hard for me to believe that you have 400 students every 9 months, and you can keep all this organized and keep it all together. I don't know how you do this, Dean. I mean, I know you have a lot of help. It's not, you don't just do it yourself, but it is highly structured and highly and such success rate. It's not perfect, but neither are the people who come there.
Yeah.
But it is an amazing situation, and now you and your organization have reached such acclaim all over the country because what you do really works, and you have a new twist to it. Maybe that's a good way for you to explain to people about Faith Farm.
Well, we have in the book we say that we did a search on our student web database, and we 43 out of 50 states. It's now 47 out of 50 states in the last 5 years have sent people to Faith Farm here in South Florida. So we do draw from all over the country. But that's a good thing. They find us on their web. People that are desperate, their parents or them, if they've got a computer, they'll do a web search. And of course, Judy Walter, she's great at search engine optimization and using keywords so people can find us. And that's the reason we've drawn from all over the country, literally, and South America. And so we like that. We like to have the reach, even though we're in South Florida, and over 80% of our people are come from this local area. But still, there's another 20% that comes from all over the United States. And so we love to have that national outreach. We love to be able to show on a map on our website that like I had a parent over Christmas holidays call me from Joliet, Illinois, and they called me, and they've got a son and his girlfriend are both have really bad addictions, and they sweet little Catholic nun took my book and gave it to the parents, and they read it, and it gave them hope that maybe my son and his girlfriend could turn around. So they called me, and I talked to them, and I said, but your son and his girlfriend, they've got to make the call. They've got to want to have, there's a difference. Everybody who's got addiction needs help. Not all of them want it. And we're looking for the people that want help, want to turn their life around. Not that need to. Everybody in that addicted needs to turn their life around. But we're looking for people that want to turn their life around.
And I think what you've said is now these people who want to don't know how to do that by themselves.
Right.
And they have tried various things, and somehow what you have is magic there. And I know it's not magic, I'm kidding. But in a way, you have figured out a lot of the ways that you can help people. And I think maybe that's what's missing in some of these other addiction centers.
Well, a lot of addiction centers are just abstinence programs, and they might have psychological counseling or whatever. We start basically and say, look, here's the causes of addiction. Here are the things that happen in your life. If any of these things happen, they can be the catalyst to you self-medicating to try and forget these problems. And we start with causes of addiction, and then in woven through that whole 9-month study is a spiritual input, because we're a faith-based ministry, make no apologies for it. We accept all faith and religion into our thing, although we our basis, what we teach is Christian. The thing is, we feel we feel that you have to have some connection outside of yourself to be able to stay clean. You've got to, for us, it's being in the Bible, prayer, going to a church connected that might have a Celebrate Recovery group or other people that have been out of that lifestyle, so they're an encouragement and you have a like-mindedness
so it's not
socially.
AA. See, that's a lot of people just go there.
Yeah,
and that doesn't seem to work.
Well, the sad thing is AA. This is my opinion. They started losing their effectiveness. They used to have a real high effectiveness, but they started taking the God. That was a very spiritual God thing when it started, and they took God and all this other stuff, and they instead of God, they used the term higher power, and so they kind of laundered it to make it more acceptable to everything. At that point, they lost their effectiveness. We have a course, one of our board members, John Glenn, wrote a book called The Alpha Course. And the Alpha Course...
what, Alpha Course?
Alpha. And it is woven through several of our 6-week courses. And the Alpha Course, if you go back and analyze it, it basically is a 12-step program. He took it back to the spiritual roots. But it explains about a relationship to God. It explains that you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. You have nothing to give. Until you learn how to forgive yourself and to love yourself and say, hey, I'm okay. I'm forgiven. I ask God to forgive me for everything I did, and my slate's clean with God. Once you get that and you can love yourself, then you can love somebody else. And that's a real critical thing that's missing out of a lot of programs. And that's why I've talked before on programs that we really stress forgiveness of people that have hurt you, even though that's hard to do. You have to do that to clean yourself up in your spirit so you can be receptive and you can be loving to other people genuinely.
So, when we first started the show, we didn't even know what we were going to talk about. But, of course, you get Dean Webb here, and he's got so many stories. He's got so many things going. We never have that problem. So remember, before we just let Dean go, this coming Sunday, at 10:30
at Boynton Beach.
Boynton Beach, the wonderful Faith Farm. So please, let's see you there. Get on their web, and that's faithfarm.org.